Yeah. Pro Fan Sports Podcast. Let's get it. Pro fans, tune into the program. Every single week, get the dope, fam. Sean on the mic, very flat too. Keep you updated, that's what we do. Pro fans, tune into the program. Pro fans, tune into the program. Pro fans, tune into the program. Every single week, get the dope, fam.
Yo, what it do, everybody? It's your boy John Altidor with Pro Fan Sports Podcast. Back at you with another one of my boys, Vlad, Barry. And today we got sports writer, blogger, media columnist at the Boston Globe, Chad Finn. How you doing, Chad?
Good. You listed all my jobs there, man. I appreciate it.
You got to. We do our homework on this podcast, man. You know, we got to give you your flowers right now.
Yeah, I guess so. You put it that way, I sound like I'm busy, so I appreciate it.
I mean, I can imagine, you know, blogging and writing for the Boston Globe is a pretty busy job for you, isn't it? Especially in Boston.
It is. You know, as you guys know, there's always something going on. I mean, the last 4 days I've covered the Red Sox home opener, the Celtics game last night, and then the marathon today. So it's we're really lucky here to have so much interesting stuff going on. But sometimes it feels like it's never ending too, you know?
Yeah. I mean, happy Patriots Day. I think I was on Twitter. I saw you were covering the marathon today. How was covering that?
Good. It's always really fun from the standpoint of everybody's in a great mood. You know, it's such a distinctly Boston day, and the Red Sox play early, and the marathon is kind of an excuse for people to skip work and party during the afternoon on a Monday, which they don't often get to do. And just good vibes all around about it. And of course, you know, 9 years ago when the bombing happened, it emboldened the connection between the marathon and Boston and sports fans even more. So I'm always happy to be a part of the Globe coverage for the marathon and to try to find interesting people to write about. The hard part is when the race is going on, you just have no idea what your story is going to be. Like the 10 miles in, and the guy leading at 10 miles or the woman leading at 10 miles is probably not going to be the person that wins it. And you kind of got to figure it out as it goes, like what the strategy was. But so covering the actual race can be tricky, but being there on that day is just really cool. I'm always thrilled to be able to do it.
I mean, how are you like driving or something? You on a bike? How are we doing this?
No, I'm standing around. I'd do it on a bike if they gave me one, but basically you just go to the finish line and wait for people to start rolling in, looking like they just ran a marathon. But the people, it's so funny because the people at the beginning, you know, the elite runners that do it in like 2 hours and 5 minutes, they don't look like they did any exercise. But 3 hours later, you know, you get the people straggling in 5 hours and they look like they've been through a war. So I don't know how those little fast guys do it, but they run their little, 4.5 minute miles and get in there and look like they just went for a little walk around the block. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. We're talking about all the African dudes and, you know, the foreigners that come, you know, the closest, convenience store is like 26 miles for them where they come from, right?
They run to school. Yeah, they run home from school. And I think distance running to them is what walking or is to us. And it's part of the culture from I think the women's winner today was from Kenya, and they have a rivalry with Ethiopian runners. So it's it's all a part of their lifestyle, and especially if you show aptitude at it when you're young. Whereas here, I don't know what that is. Basketball, maybe, where you get into the AAU culture a little bit. Obviously, they're not the same things, but when you show ability in a sport young over there, it's distance running, and over here, it's not quite so much.
Yeah, I mean, we got all the transportation we need everywhere, right? And now we got Uber, so you don't got to go you don't got to walk anywhere. So, good luck to us.
I'd rather drive. Yeah. I tell people I'm going to the marathon. I think they assume I'm not running, which is a pretty easy assumption to make.
Yeah, I mean, the marathon is so big here. Shout out to everybody that actually participate and actually finish it. I don't think I could ever do it, but maybe in a few more. I'll practice for a few years. Before I do it in like 7 hours or something. But it's pretty big here. Another thing that's pretty big here as of last night. I'm sure you were paying attention to it. Celtics basketball, a pretty exciting game last night with Jason Tatum hitting a game-winning layup there. Did you get to watch that game, and what were your thoughts on it?
I did. I wasn't there, but I had to write about it afterwards. So I did the old watch it from the couch and take notes routine. It was, beyond the ending, which, it's the first buzzer beater the Celtics have ever had in 360 something home playoff games ever. All their buzzer beaters previously were on the road. I think they only have 5 or 6 in their history, but beyond that, it was just an incredible game. Just a great basketball game, back and forth. Celtics got their 15-point lead at 84-69, and you figured maybe Durant or Kyrie would get hurt. It was get hot. It wasn't Durant, but Kyrie went off. And all of a sudden, that 15-point lead's down to 3, and all of a sudden, the Nets are ahead by 5, and you're wondering if this is a flashback to the first half of the season. The Celtics let so many leads get away, and instead they kind of proved that they're the team that they became in the second half, that trusts each other, and their coach trusts them, and made the plays when they had to. I thought the most underrated play in that game was 107, 102, Jaylen Brown hits that 3 with about 1:12 left, because it felt like that game was getting away, and then all of a sudden you're back within 2, and they tied it up. I think Smart at a basket after that, but incredible game, and probably means we got an incredible stressful series ahead here, and that the Nets aren't going to go quietly. But if you're a Celtics fan, you got to feel really good about it. It's all anybody was talking about today when I was covering the marathon. People just wanted to talk about that basketball game last night.
Understandably so. No, definitely.
Yeah.
All that's been on my mind and all I've been talking about. So I don't blame other people for, but talking about it or, mentioning about it. That was one of the best playoff games that we've seen in recent years. And it's crazy that was just game 1 of the, first round. But I just wanted to ask you. All right, I'm gonna just get right to it because I was gonna hold off on the Kyrie's questions, but I'm gonna we're gonna talk about it at some point. So just kind of wanted to get your opinion and your take on Kyrie's antics versus Celtics fans and all that transpired with that situation between those two sides.
Well, if David Stern was still alive and still the commissioner, Kyrie would be getting about $200,000 worth of fines today, probably. $10,000 for every middle finger that he threw. I know he did a couple behind his head that we didn't see on TV, so he had it going all night. But we'll see how that shakes out in terms of whether he gets a fine or in any trouble with the league. I'm sure they can't be thrilled with the player flipping off the fans, but on the other side of it, we don't really hear what the fans are saying to him for the most part. Some of it is probably pretty crude. And I have to say, if I was a player and fans are swearing at me, I might be tempted to flip them the bird too. So, we'll probably learn more about that. But in the big picture, I'm starting to think maybe giving Kyrie a hard time isn't the way to go for Celtics fans, because it clearly affects him. It makes him mad, but it makes him play better too. It's just he was unstoppable last night, and it feels like he's been that way the last couple of times he's played against the Celtics. And they had the water bottle incident in the playoffs last year. maybe just giving him the silent treatment. It'd be impossible for Celtics fans to do, obviously,
No.
but maybe just giving him the silent treatment's the way to go because, talking smack to him is only making him stronger.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I don't think that's ever going to happen with Celtics fans and Kyrie.
No.
That's definitely it even a thought for sure with them. I don't think, for as long as he's playing, that's certainly not going to happen. And, for sure. But also wanted to ask you as far as about the game and about particularly, Tatum and Brown. I know that they've shown, tremendous growth, this year, and showed that, they can be able to actually now lead a team and make the team better. Just, what are your, thoughts on, Tatum and Brown, and particularly after we saw yesterday, what did you see anything that really impressed you and stuck out to you guys from their performance, particularly on how they defended KD and how they're able to be effective on the offensive end?
Yeah, well, overall, I mean, that last play was just involving Jalen and Jason. It was, a lot of people have said this today, but it's true that it was a microcosm of their improvement this season individually and as a team. They get the ball with 12 seconds. Horford gets the rebound. Everybody touches the ball in that sequence at the end. He gets it to Derek White. He gets it to Brown, who doesn't force a shot. Gets it over Marcus. By some miracle, he didn't shoot it, and finds Tatum for the layup. And it just it's all of those things that have happened over the course of the season that all came together in that moment. It was Ime Udoka trusting the players and not calling a timeout and letting them looking out there, seeing a mismatch with Brown on Dragic on Brown and letting them attack. It was Tatum, first half of the season, he's not cutting to the basket there. He's standing at the 3-point line waiting for the ball, and he cut. And Marcus, we know he's jacking that up, but that was the most incredible play of Marcus Smart's career last night, that he didn't shoot that. He up-fakes two guys into the rafters, and then he's got an open shot, and he passes it. So that was really reassuring, I think, if you're a Celtics fan, that all the positives that we saw in the second half of the season, they all manifested themselves right at that point. But in terms of, your actual question, Brown and Tatum's figured out that sharing the ball actually makes his work a little bit easier. The ball comes back to him. He gets open shots. He's also realized, and we've realized, that he's a really good playmaker. Sees the court well. With Jalen last night, I thought he played better the more beat up he got. He had tape caught in one nostril, caught in the next nostril, blood coming out of his mouth, and saved his best play for the end of the game, hitting that three, and then had the driving basket that when the Nets conceded, that what made it 114-113 when they conceded that layup when it was 111. And, had a nice dunk late, had the 3-pointer that got it to 107-105. And, Jalen forces his offense a little bit of time. I don't think he's made as many adjustments to play team ball as some of the other Celtics, but he's still clearly he's not 1A to Tatum, but he's a really good number 2. And he showed that last night down the stretch. He saved his best play for the end of the game when everything was at stake.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and I want to talk about Marcus Smart a little bit. And I think for me, he was the talk at the end of the game. Just like you said, him not taking that shot and him just passing the ball to Tatum. That was just that. I don't know. That just show how far he's coming. I feel as though him accepting his new role with the team, or the role that he should have accepted a long time ago, has made the plays of Tatum and Brown just a lot easier. He just allowed those guys to find their role as well. So, and I feel as though he's not only made improvement as a point guard, but he also won Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Huge.
Yes,
Yeah.
huge congrats to Marcus
Well
Smart.
deserved.
Absolutely.
Talk about Marcus Smart a little bit, about how far he's come, this year, and being Defensive Player of the Year and being able to achieve that as a guard, how difficult that is and how impressive that is.
Yeah, he's one of my all-time favorite Celtics. You're not supposed to have favorites, I guess, when you're a reporter covering the team, but honestly, you do. You have guys you like watching, or guys you enjoy talking to, or you just like the way they play. And I've always thought, for whatever his flaws were, Marcus's intentions are always good. He was trying to do the thing that he thought was going to help the team win. And sometimes he had too much confidence in his shot. That came from him often when he would start jacking up threes. It was either because he hit a couple and he suddenly went into heat check mode, or he felt like that they needed someone to pick up the offense, that Jalen wasn't locked in, or they didn't have a decent third scorer that night. And so he would get into that mode where he'd take 15, 16, 17 shots. And sometimes it worked. He's a better offensive player than he gets credit for the people that complain about his shooting. But what's happened this season is his belief that he could be a point guard. The coaches trusted that. They saw it too. Ime and the 40 coaches he has on the bench there with him. Ime had been one of the assistants with Team USA, I think in 2019 when Marcus played, and they knew his skill set. They believed he could be the point guard like he was back at Oklahoma State and be a real playmaker and not just be a fill-in at that position. And if you look back at their history since he's been here, it's Isaiah Thomas, it's Kemba Walker, Kyrie Irving, guys who they look like point guards, but they're not. They're score-first guards. And so that kind of pushed Marcus off to the side where they had these primary ball handlers who were also the scorers. And they kind of put Marcus in a role that he shouldn't have been in. He was basically the two guard, but, with the point guard skills. So of all the things they've done to adjust this year, putting Marcus in the right spot and finding out that he can really handle that position at a high level has been huge. And I think last night was the confirmation that he's completely bought in on it, that he thinks of himself as a point guard and a playmaker and not somebody who has to score to help the team win. Now, part of that is Jason Tatum's taking a leap to another level. They got offense from other spots. Horford got 20 last night. Jalen, I think, ended up with 23. But, Marcus has really toned down and improved his shot selection. And we're never going to get a greater example of that than the opportunity that he had last night to take that three-pointer and instead making the pass at exactly the right time and exactly the right spot to the right guy to win the game. So I love the guy. I'm happy he won Defensive Player of the Year. And I'm even more happy that he's won over more Celtics fans, because that's a guy who really cares. And, we're finally seeing him being used the right way.
I completely agree. I think he's the definition of what a Celtics is supposed to be. And he's definitely not at the Kevin Garnett level yet. But, I feel as though as far as like team spirit, like he definitely carries that gene, So I really
feel like he's the captain, don't you?
In a way, yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. Team spirit, team captain for sure. My other question is, I think it was very exciting to win game one. And I think if we didn't win game one, it would have been kind of chaos around Boston. I mean, I think we would have been like, oh, what is going on? Oh, can we win this?
We're doomed.
Exactly. And if we lose game
Right.
If we lose game two, then it's like, oh my God, so I think winning game one was necessary. And if we didn't win game one, I think I just don't know how we would be feeling today. So what do you think? How do you think the rest of the series is going to go? And what do you think the Celtics need to do to win the next couple of games, at least the next game, which is at home? What do you think?
They go to Brooklyn up 2-0.
Yeah.
I think they need more from their secondary players. One of the Celtics' big advantages in this series is they have better depth. The pieces on their roster fit better together than they do at Brooklyn. and we've seen that really develop again over the course of the second half of the season. But last night, starters were almost all great. Horford was phenomenal. I mean, that was one of the best games I've ever seen him play. But Grant Williams wasn't good. He didn't make open shots. Tice was terrible. I mean, he couldn't hold on to the ball. And
just fouling all over the place. I know everybody was fouling, but Tice was just, my God,
and missing layups and not catching rebounds.
Right.
Yeah,
right. And liability, absolutely.
Yeah,
horrible.
And they need offense out of Pritchard. He didn't get much of an opportunity last night. I think they realized he had no chance to stand in front of Kyrie. And the Celtics love to switch on defense, and Pritchard's a mismatch.
With sound one off.
These guys got to make their open shots. You can't have Grant Williams going 0 for 2 in the first quarter on wide open threes. When you get the opportunity, you got to knock it down. I thought Derek White, he struggled for a good part of the game, but he was really good down the stretch last night. Had one of the bigger hoops late in the game, and I feel like they'll get contributions out of him. But Celtics can't just lean on their best players. Their advantage over Brooklyn is quality depth, and those guys in the 6, 7, 8 spots on the bench, on the roster, need to play better than they did in game 1.
I agree.
Yeah,
No,
I
sure.
definitely agree with that. For sure, because it just felt like even though we won the game, the Celtics weren't playing up to their potential, and I thought, what do you think that was due to? The layoff they had, because they haven't played in about like a week since the regular season ended.
Yeah, that was definitely a big part of it, I think. That game was really awkward at the beginning. Like, it felt like everybody was playing just a little bit faster than they needed to. And, both sides, guys were missing short shots, and the 18 fouls in the first quarter, the most in any NBA game this year. Just no rhythm to the game. And I think part of that was just all the whistles, all the fouls. Couldn't get any flow going, but it was also just the Celtics looked like a team that hadn't played in a week. And I guess that's the one advantage that teams that play in the play-in round have is that they don't get rusty, because they're constantly out there every couple of games. And I thought Brooklyn did look like the team that had played more recently last night, at least in the first half of the game. I expect in game 2 we'll see a Celtics team that's much sharper at the beginning of the game. And I'll tell you guys too, I think Rob Williams is back sooner rather than later. I mean, they posted a video of the team revealing to Smart that he had won Defensive Player of the Year, and Rob Williams is bouncing around the room like there's nothing wrong with his knee at all. So I have a feeling this is my prediction, they're gonna drop him as a surprise in the Nets, where we don't think he's playing for game 2 or game 3, and then all of a sudden, probably happens in Boston actually, so maybe it's a little later in the series, but all of a sudden they go out for warm-ups and Rob Williams is out there and the place goes nuts. I could see that happening. I think they're underplaying the fact that they're not certain if he's going to play in the series. I think it's almost a certainty that he will.
Do you think they play him if we come back 3-0? If we win,
would they play him?
Oh, actually,
you think it's necessary?
If we 3-0,
yeah,
they play him.
If we're up 3-0, if the Celtics are up 3-0, probably not. They could probably afford to be cautious, but he's moving around at practice, and he's right in the middle of the celebration when teammates win awards. So it certainly to the naked eye, it looks like he's ready to. He looks like Rob Williams to me, and someone who can come back and help them. And he missed a month. He'd probably be rusty, but so long as this meniscus injury hasn't affected his his ability to move and get off the floor to any really significant degree, getting him back would change things, even if he's not sharp. I mean, if you get 80% of Rob Williams back, well, okay, now you're not playing Tice as much. You've got 3 bigs. You've got a guy Brooklyn has to think about every time he's on the court when they're driving into the lane. I mean, we saw last night Kyrie had a couple of layups where nobody contested him. For Williams is on the court. That doesn't happen. So I imagine we're going to see him soon.
Yeah, no, I hope
absolutely.
So. Has he been cleared for like contact or done any sort of like, you know, real basketball activity as far as like 1-on-1, 3-on-3? I know he hasn't done any 5-on-5 yet, but as far as what you've been hearing, or how far is he in the process of his recovery and being on the court? How far has he been able to do basketball wise?
I'm not sure. They're keeping it pretty under wraps, but we've seen him around at practice. You know, he's out on the court at practice when you're allowed there, the little bit of time you're allowed to watch it. So we're not really sure the extent of what he's doing. We can only kind of go by what they tell us, and they're underselling it with what they tell us. It's not, you know, they're not going to put out a press release when he's playing 1-on-1 like the Nets are going to do when Ben Simmons finally gets around to playing against human beings. So
right.
I think Celtics love gamesmanship. Brad does, Ime does, and I think they're trying to keep it under wraps to make it as difficult for the Nets as they can in terms of when they might see him on the basketball court.
For sure.
No,
I think, you know, one last question I wanted to ask about the Celtics here is, you know, the Celtics obviously have the best defensive team in the playoffs right now, and we talked about Marcus Smart, who's, you know, rightfully the defensive player of the year, and then, you know, Rob Williams, who was being considered for that as well. And I think, you know, not much is being made about, you know, the game winner last night in Jason Tatum, because I thought he was incredible, you know, playing Kevin Durant last night. You know, he was scoring and locking Kevin Durant up every time he went up against him. It has Jason Tatum become a two-way superstar?
I think so, and I'm with you. I think last night was probably one of the first indications to national NBA fans that he's at that level. His ability to make things difficult for Durant. Nobody makes things difficult for Durant. He gets to a spot.
He blocked the shot.
Right.
Yeah, Jalen got him from behind 2-on-1. But you know, Durant basically gets to a spot, and then you're just crossing your fingers and hoping he misses because you know, he unleashes the ball from so high. But Tatum can contest those, and we saw it on the last shot Durant took, where you know, he kind of faded away a little bit, kind of had to chuck it up quick because Kyrie got it to him so late in the shot clock. But Tatum contested it. He didn't foul him. He just made it as difficult as he possibly could for it. And you know, he's long. He's incredibly athletic. He can guard smalls or bigs. So can Horford too, which is more surprising because he's much older. And the commitment on defense is something that maybe wasn't there for Tatum as a younger player that clearly is now. And he is making the effort to be as complete an NBA player and as complete a Celtic as he can possibly be. And that's on the defensive end as well. And it's incredibly impressive. And I think, you know, if fans in other markets didn't know this, they saw it last night. I know people were watching that game in, you know, Brooklyn or San Francisco or wherever, and they have this wake up moment where they're like, "Oh, Jason Tatum is a great defender too." I didn't know that, but people know that now, and they're going to know it even more as the series goes on.
Absolutely. Do you have a prediction for the series?
I picked Celtics in 6 at the beginning.
Yes.
I'm going to stick with it.
That was my prediction too, so that's why I was excited and had that reaction. So sorry for the interruption.
I'm with you, man.
Yeah, that just made me happy, so I appreciate you for that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that too, and I don't want to see Kyrie in Game 7. I don't want to see Durant in Game 7.
Nah, me either.
Don't have to deal with that.
No.
Yeah, get it over with. But I think Celtics are a better team. They didn't play their best game last night, and they still came away with a win. So I think things will get better for them.
Sorry, I think the most impressive thing last night was, we had the 15-point lead. We lost it, but we still hung in there and won the game. And, as we talked about the beginning of the year, we would have those 15, 20 points lead. We would lose them, and we would never get them back. So I think that was the most impressive thing. Just seeing the Celtics persevere and not crumble under pressure. I think that's it all that I needed to know about this team, and it just was my confidence for them throughout the rest of this playoff.
Yep, and they didn't fall into bad habits either.
Yeah,
I mean that must be tempting when things start slipping away, and you're like, oh, I gotta. Tatum could have totally justified trying to take it over by himself.
ISO Jays.
Yeah, exactly. Jalen's still ISO Jalen a little bit, but
that's true. Yeah.
They didn't. They stayed within themselves more. Again, the best evidence of it was the last play, and played smart and selfless basketball and didn't panic. And again, one more sign of their growth. I think, as frustrating as it was for much of that game, that the Nets were hanging around, taking the lead. In the end, you got to feel really good about what you saw from the Celtics, because it was just all a confirmation of all the good things that have happened over these, over that stretch where they went 28-7 after starting the year 18-21.
Absolutely incredible. You have one last question, Barry?
Yeah, regarding the Celtics.
The Celtics.
Right. Just wanted to ask you, Chad, what are your, thoughts on Ime Udoka and his, first, year being the head coach of the Celtics, and and what he's done with this team during this year.
Yeah, I love the guy. He's really candid and straightforward about what he thinks about certain things, and he tells us when he feels like they're taking bad shots or doesn't like the effort, and his players can't get mad because it's the same thing he's telling them behind the scenes. And early in the season, you had to wonder if he was going to get through to them, because he was clearly getting frustrated, kept harping on, stop the ISO ball. Everybody's got to lock down on defense. And for a while there, you wondered if they were listening. But then, all of a sudden, 3 months ago, the switch flipped on a lot of different things. On Marcus playing point guard basketball, playmaker basketball, Tatum being a complete player, just all these things. Rob Williams obviously took a huge leap forward, which was a big factor too, but all these things you weren't sure you were going to see happened. And the players get credit for that. They deserve credit for doing the right thing, but a lot of that goes on Ime too, because he stayed on these guys and stayed on them and broke their bad habits and didn't let them off the hook when something might have worked out, even if they did it the wrong way. If they did it the wrong way, he wanted things done the right way. And I have a feeling. I mean, he's really straightforward with us and doesn't show a ton of humor. I have a feeling he has a pretty good sense of humor behind the scenes, because Grant Williams is on him all the time, giving him a hard time about things, and Grant never stops talking. And I feel like Ime can hold his own, if they trade insults or something like that. But he doesn't really show that side of himself to us. But there you are. But clearly he's found some way to connect with the players where they don't only. It's not just respecting him; they really like the guy too. And boy, they got that hire right. And the underrated thing in the series is he was on the Nets bench last year. He was Nash's assistant. He knows this team. He knows what they think of the Celtics. So that's another benefit of having him right now.
Absolutely.
Speaking of the Nets and Steve Nash, what is he doing over there? On that bench? Is he drawing up play? I'm just like, sometimes it just looks like there's nothing he's really doing over there.
He's got a point guard who's uncoachable. Nash is 2-time MVP, and Kyrie's not going to listen to him or anybody else. So that's a tough place to start. But yeah, he's pretty low key Canadian dude. He was kind of animated last night, more than I've ever seen him, where he's doing a lot of clapping.
Showed a lot of emotion. Oh yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know if the message is necessarily getting through, and I don't even know if he's really trying to get it through at this point with this group of guys he has.
Right. I didn't see any in-game adjustments, like, with him. It was just kind of like, okay, give it the ball to Kyrie or give the ball to KD and just clear out and let them cook and let them do their thing, and stuff, and not really run any offensive plays and offensive sets, and have guys screening and cutting and and look like an actual offense. It was just like you say, it was hero ball, it was ISO ball, like my turn basketball, where
right,
you just let your top two scorers go one-on-one. And I mean, luckily it almost worked, and they almost won the game, and one of them went crazy and and had a pretty good fourth quarter, scoring 18. But I mean, I feel like right in that last possession on offense for the Nets, it cost them, because Kyrie was trying to go 1-on-5 and win it by himself, and really shut up the crowd, and he wasn't able to do that. And the Celtics played some phenomenal defense on him, and were able to force him to give up the ball, and and you guys know what the rest happened. They were able to pull out the win. So it was definitely great that that they were able to do that, and able to win that game, and just winning a close game. Like, it was just been so many times this year with this team, they've been losing close game after close game after close game, and not able to finish and pull these games out in crunch time. And just getting one is just a huge confidence builder and a huge weight off the shoulders for all those guys. So that was huge, and a thing that I observed and thought about the game yesterday.
Definitely, yeah. Their won-loss record is below 500, and those games decided by 5 points or less. So they needed that, and that was still an issue in their 21 and 28 and 7 stretch at the end of the season. The one adjustment I think the Nets are going to make, though, is we're not going to see Drummond. I think he's unplayable in this series, and they found that out when he picked up 4 fouls in the first half last night. First quarter last night first half. And we'll probably see Claxton more, even though they could go to Hack-a-Claxton mode. He clearly is. He looks like Ben Simmons on the foul line. So, Van Gundy actually mentioned that late in the game last night, that they should start fouling him. But he's a better option against the Celtics than Drummond is. He's just out of place out there with so many athletic guys playing all out on both ends of the court. Immobile big like that doesn't fit.
But they need a rim protector and a rebounder, and Drummond can do both of those things, because they didn't really have any much rim protection, particularly when Drummond wasn't there, and they got killed on the boards and gave up 14 offensive rebounds that I think really cost them, and was one of the reasons why the Celtics were able to, come out with the win. So I feel like they can't just avoid him and not play him completely. But you're right, definitely, I'm sure his limits will be limited, and he won't have as big of a role in this series, as opposed to,
It'll be interesting. Yeah. They got to do something different, that's for sure.
No, absolutely. I'm with that, definitely.
Well, Chad, you promised us a half hour here, and we're at that mark right now. And usually we let Barry ask that last wrapped up question. Barry, you ready? Get him out of here.
Yeah, I'm ready to go. Absolutely.
Let's hear it.
All right, sounds good. So, Chad, wanted to ask you. Know you've been covering Boston sports for a while. Just wanted to ask you, like, what's your top and most memorable Boston sports moment that in memory that you have since you've been covering these teams?
I'll tell you what it was. It was Malcolm Butler's interception in the 2014 in the Super Bowl because I wasn't watching. I was covering the game, and you don't know the outcome of the game. You have to file your stories pretty quickly after it ends. So you kind of got half going here if they lose and half going over here if they win. And I'm sitting there typing, and I hear just this roar. I wasn't expecting the play, and I hear this roar, and I think, like in that split second, that did not sound like a Seattle touchdown roar. And you look up, and the Butler's running off the field holding the football, and everybody was like, holy bleep, what the heck just happened? Did that really happen? So, probably the biggest play in the history of the Super Bowl, or one of them anyway. I had my head down on my keyboard and didn't actually see it happen, even though I was there live. But I still think that's the biggest play in the history of Super Bowls, just given, Patriots hadn't won a Super Bowl in 9 years, going on 10 years there. And that set off the second phase of the dynasty. Also, the win probability for the Seahawks there was probably like 99.9%. If you just hand it to Marshawn, the confetti's falling on you a minute later. But they didn't do it, and we all found out who Malcolm Butler was that night. So I'll always think of that one fondly, even though I didn't see it.
I mean, absolutely can't go wrong with that one. I think that's one of the top, if not the top, moment in Boston sports history, at least, in our lifetime, without question. And I think that's definitely going to be hard to top and overcome. I mean, what more could you possibly ask for? A guy intercepting the ball at the 1 yard line in the last minute of the Super Bowl, the biggest game of the year, to, seal the, the win in the championship for his team. I mean, it doesn't get bigger and better than that. That's pretty hard to, top and overcome.
Incredible.
Yeah, it was.
Need a Celtics version of that now. Hopefully this year.
We do, right.
For
Hopefully
sure.
we see that this year. We got a little bit of taste of that last night, with JT hitting that layup at the end. So hopefully, right, we see more. That hopefully, that was just the beginning to, what could be coming in this postseason. Real quick, how far do you think the Celtics will go in the playoffs with a healthy Robert Williams? Assuming that he'll be coming back healthy at some point.
Wow. That's a good one. Healthy Rob that looks like Rob, I think they can beat anybody. If you told me they were going to the finals, I would say I believe it, because I think they were the best team in best team in the East, second best team in the NBA behind Phoenix for a pretty good chunk of the season, the last 6 to 8 weeks. If Rob doesn't look like himself, I still think they win this series. I have too much respect for Giannis and how the Bucks have defended the title to say that the Celtics would beat them in the second round without Rob. But I fully believe in this Celtics team. I believe in everything we've seen the last couple of months, and that they're capable of just about anything if they continue to play together and do the things that have made them such a likable team over the last 3 months. So I think they're going to have a long run as long as everybody stays healthy, because, it's always been some injury that's derailed them the last couple of years. But and if they can get Rob back healthy, they're going to be around a while, maybe even playing until June.
Oof. Absolutely. I love that.
That'd be
I'd love
nice.
to see that. Oh, yeah,
Absolutely.
that'd be great. That'd be awesome. Oh, man. I haven't had that in a while.
Shad.
Austin, so that'd be amazing for sure.
Sure would.
Dad, thank you for your time, man. We really appreciate you coming on the show. Hopefully you can come on, if we make it. Let's see if we make it to the finals. Maybe we'll bring you back on here.
I'll come on anytime, guys. I had a great time. Love to talk to you again.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, man. Have a good night.
And for sure.
All right.
Thank
Take
you
care,
so
Barry. Take care, guys.
All right,
Nice
take care.
seeing you, Chad. Thanks for
See you,
your time.
fellas.
Yeah.
There you have it.
There you have it, for sure. That was Chad Finn, columnist for the Boston Globe. He's been doing work out here since 2003 with the Boston Globe. So you guys might want to check him out. It's at Chad Finn on Twitter. So, appreciate him coming on here. Make sure you follow him on social media. Make sure you're following us on social media as well. It's at ProFanSports on every platform except for Instagram, and that's ProFans_sports. Make sure you like and subscribing to the channel. That's the best way you can support us. Shout out to our supporters. Shout out to everybody that listens to our episodes on a weekly basis. Until next episode, y'all. Peace out.
Peace, everyone. See y'all next week. Have a good week.